that ayahuasca story was one of the most terrifying and loving stories I've ever had. I had a friend of mine that she wanted to do ayahuasca. This was in Toronto. And I just learned through another friend that I knew, she was doing ayahuasca ceremonies. I had no idea what ayahuasca was at the time. This is 2014 as well. So I kind of looked it up. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm like, maybe I could ask the spirits some kind of questions. I kind of liked her. Maybe I'll see if there's any possibilities, if anything happening down the road.
Yeah.
So, I kind of had it arranged where it was me, the facilitator, the shaman, and 7, 8 of us went to a house and we did this ayahuasca ceremony. And again, I don't have much information on ayahuasca at this time. I was supposed to follow a dieta. I kind of followed it, but not to my best of my abilities. And to give some background, this is not a traditional background. This is not a traditional ayahuasca ceremony by any means. I didn't know that at the time because there was no Icaros. There was none of that, right? It probably could have been real ayahuasca, or it could have been ayahuasca with some DMT at it. It could have been a pharmahuasca, right? So, we were all given the cup. We were all given our intentions. We were told not to talk to anybody during the ceremony. If you have any help, if you need anything, talk to the facilitator. I'll call her Mandy, or talk to the shaman. And so after I took my brew, the lights were dimmed. They had the music playing in the background. And then I started hearing, I couldn't even explain it. I started hearing this weird noise and I started getting severe anxiety. I'm like looking around in the room to see if anybody else is hearing what I'm hearing. And I'm like kind of panicking. I'm like, everyone else is calm. They're not hearing what I'm hearing. And what I'm hearing, it turned out to be is like demonic laughter. It was like cackling really, really loud. I'm like, oh my God, I need help. I need to talk to the shaman or the Reiki master for some help. And as I tried to get up, it held me down. So I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. And then it told me where I'm going, I am effed. That made me even more scared, right? I'm like, oh my God. Crazy. Yeah. So while this is happening, there's a secondary noise that starts taking place. At least I could categorize the first noise as demonic laughter. The secondary noise, I had no idea what it was because I didn't know what it was. That made it even scarier for me. And eventually it started to overtake the demonic laughter, and that completely went away. And, my anxiety didn't go down. It was through the roof. My heart was beating like a million miles a second. I was fighting for my life to not close my eyes. I was terrified. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen to me if I close my eyes. And then my eyelids kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and it felt like they were lead curtains. And then eventually, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't fight. I couldn't fight it. So my eyes just shut. And then when my eyes shut, I realized what the secondary noise was. I saw my soul in a rocket ship, and the noise was the engine of the rocket ship. And then I started to blast off into the universe at the speed of light. And it was blasting off so fast that I was shaking in the ship. And while I was shaking in the ship, the lady that was sitting next to me on the couch said that I was shaking on the couch, right? But I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I was no longer in a house. I was no longer on Earth. I was in outer space. I was traveling so fast. I was freaking out. I was like, I hope I don't get an anxiety attack. And then the word anxiety came out of my mouth, and I started bouncing off the glass in the spaceship. And the more it bounced, the more anxiety I got, and the faster my heart was beating, like doot 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 doot. And eventually, it got to a point where it's bouncing off so fast. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die of a heart attack. So I let go of the controls of the spaceship, grabbed my heart, and the spaceship, it crash landed in an alien planet. And then I was bleeding. My spaceship was all in tatters. And there was aliens all around me, and they saw me, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's an alien." So they scattered all around me. So now I have no idea where I am. This does not look like heaven, or it could be hell. Who knows, right? Very
Right.
dark, very dark place that I'm at, and they're all fighting over my corpse or what's left of me. Some are 9 feet tall, some are 3 feet tall, some were able to download my memories. So I'm like, hey, good beings only. And they were laughing at me. They're like, you're our property. We could do anything we want with you. So at this point, I'm freaking out. I I don't know how much long I have left. There's a power bar above my head, almost like a video game. The more and more it goes down, the more and more it's closer to death I am. I'm contemplating how my parents are going to have my funeral if they can't find my body. And at the last second, when the bar just hits zero, this beam of white light comes down through my crown chakra and lifts me off the ground. And these beings, and they scatter all around me because they're terrified. And then I realize it's God or the creator, but I'm very upset, at this point still. I'm like, you couldn't have come 5 minutes earlier? I'm like, you have to wait until the bottom of the night, 3 balls, 2 strikes, right? It didn't say anything. And then it just started to lift me off the ground. And then everything was erased. And then it was just pure white light, and I was floating to the creator. It wasn't saying anything, but I kind of knew what it wanted. And so I was pleading with it. I was like, please, you've already taken everything from me. I don't want to lose my memories. And then I realized I just have to give in. And then eventually I just let go. And then I awoke. It was almost like we're living in a dream. And when I woke up, I was like, wow, I'm a human being. So I was able to see my own body floating to the heavens. I'm like, wow, I'm male. I'm East Indian. I'm looking at my body like in amazement, like I had just woken up from a dream. And then it erased every single cell in my body until there's one cell left, and it started to tear that apart faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster with such clarity. I don't know how I was able to see it. And eventually, when there was nothing left, it told me that love bonded everything else in the universe. And then I started crying. And then I was wondering, like, how am I crying if I don't have a body? Right? And then eventually I was transported into another dimension, and the spirit of ayahuasca is like, now that your ego has been broken, now we can give you lessons. So it had broadened the spirit of every single drug that I had been using that year. The spirit of marijuana, the spirit of alcohol, and when I came to the spirit of MDMA, it told me that this drug is a fake friend. It takes more from you than it gives you. You got to stop doing this substance. Otherwise, if you continue to do it and you do ayahuasca again, we're going to punish you for it, right? It allowed me to see 20 years in the future. I said no. I wasn't ready for that at the time. It allowed me to ask any question in the world, in the universe, and it'll give me the answer on the condition that I won't remember what I asked, and I won't remember what the answer was. So I couldn't tell you what that was. And then eventually, what happened was I finally realized I was in a house. I finally realized there's people around me. And I had the ability of telepathy. Anybody that I wanted to talk to would come up to me when I asked for it, and they would ask me how I'm doing, certain things like that. And then the spirit of ayahuasca was leaving my body, and it was like, "We're leaving your body. Do you have any last questions?" I'm like, "Oh, what are the odds of me and so and so getting together?" And we're like, "We can't tell you that because it's not from the heart. But if you want to know long term, we can tell you that." I'm like, "Sure." And then it actually showed me the lady that was next to me. We had a 90% chance of getting together in June. So I was able to look at everybody. It was really strange. I was not, at this point, I was not seeing anything, but everybody had a percentage on their chest. So that was the long term, where I could look at them and see what the long term potential was. But I could peel back the graph. So this is in March 2014. So if I expanded it to June, I could see if it goes up or down. So the person that was next to me, were 90% in June. I'm like, oh wow, that's strange. And we ended up falling in love at a festival in June that year.
Wow.